All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Flow, a podcast about building in the AI space. This is our second episode, so we made it. We made it to episode two. That's I guess
Yes.
we were good enough in episode one that we got renewed, so we're back for episode two. We have an amazing guest and some amazing things to talk about today. But first, I thought we'd do some very quick introductions. So I'll go ahead and go first. My name is Carter Rabasa. I work in developer relations on the Langflow team, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Flow with my colleague David.
Hello, everybody. I'm David Jones-Gilardi, Gen AI nerd, as it says right there. I'm also in developer relations on the Langflow team, along with my co-host Carter.
Awesome. And as I sort of mentioned before, there are a lot of people asked us, like, why we were creating yet another podcast and yet another AI podcast. But the answer is pretty simple. There are there's a lot of good content out there about AI. But we wanted to create a podcast where we would be talking with fellow engineers, where we could have conversations about building in the AI space, building with agents, building with MCP, but do it from a really code first perspective, right? So one thing that you're not going to get from this podcast is a bunch of kind of like hand wavy conversations about AGI, or are we all going to lose our jobs, or anything like that, right? Look, AI is a complicated space. There are definitely topics that are worth discussion. They're just not going to happen here. We're going to have conversations about building, and hopefully, if you're a developer or you're a builder, you're gonna like what you hear. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of turn the floor over to Kaelyn Chresfield, who works at Twilio. I'm going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself a little bit. And actually, Kaelyn, I'm gonna start off with a question I like to
Yeah.
ask all of our guests. When and why did you start programming?
Oh, that's actually a really funny question because I started programming a little bit on a whim. So it was around the time where coding boot camps were sort of popping up all over the place. I went to school for physics and I did not like physics. I was like, I gotta get out of here. Like in order to get a job, I'd have to get a master's. And I was like, oh, coding boot camps, let's see what that's about. And I sort of just, checked it out to see what would happen. And then after graduating, I actually became an instructor at the coding boot camp. So it's like I got even more in depth with coding and I ended up loving it because of just the logistics of it all. Like I feel like physics was very, equation based, but coding was a little bit more of a journey. Like you could take different pathways, but you could still arrive at the same answer. And I was like, I like this fluidity of coding. So I was like, let's turn this into something.
That's that's awesome.
I like that a lot.
I'm David and I are old hands in the tech industry, and we remember back when if you wanted to get a job in tech, like step one was to go get a computer science degree from like a 4-year
From
university.
college, yes.
For sure. And but things have completely changed, and I think most people listening are can appreciate that. And from my perspective, it's changed for the better, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot less gatekeeping, more well, because ultimately, like
Accessibility.
for
Yeah.
sure, and but also, I think the this is kind of a passion of mine. Like programming isn't just about like knowing how to program, right? It's about being thoughtful about like what to build and for whom, right?
Exactly.
And if the industry just all looks like the same people, then you just build all the same apps for like the same people, and you don't get all the amazing things that we have now. So
Yes, I totally agree with that.
that's awesome. Hey, I have a question for you. Have you ever been to
Yeah.
I feel like I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Have you ever been to Render ATL?
I have. Yeah, what year? I think I might have gone in 22 or 23, like right after COVID ended and, all of the conferences were sort of running back up. Yeah. Why do you ask?
Because I've just heard great things about it, and I've always wanted to go, but it's kind of on the other side of the country, so I haven't made it. Did you have a good time?
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah. I mean, the event was wonderful. The talks were great. And even the post talk events. The post-conference events were also really engaging, and I met a lot of great people from all around the world. I mean, and a lot of people from Brazil were there. But, I was just really surprised by the amount of developers and the different backgrounds that they all pulled in. It was truly a great event. You should go
Well,
if you ever get the chance. I mean, I
I
know it just passed, but
I know. I'll try to get out there. I've heard great things about it, and it's really nice to see that. Obviously, everyone's joining us here on a virtual event,
Mhm.
but like it's nice to know
mhm.
that like in-person events are kind of coming back after they went away for a little while. All right, so
Yeah.
let's go ahead and transition to Twilio. So you are a developer evangelist at
Yeah.
Twilio. David is familiar with Twilio. I actually used to work at Twilio way back in the day. But for the folks that are listening that aren't familiar with Twilio, like what's the TLDR? Like what is Twilio, and how does it help developers build cool apps?
Yeah, TLDR for Twilio. Twilio is a communication platform that powers real-time communication, all with the use of APIs. So everything is done on the cloud. It's fully scalable, and it allows you to use, connect the internet to your cell phone devices. So I like to think of it or explain to people like, if you've ever been on like your computer and you're like, how do I connect to, someone's cell phone without going through a telephone provider like Verizon or Sprint? Sprint's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I forgot. No,
Yeah,
no, sorry. Sprint was taken over by T-Mobile.
I think they like merged with T-Mobile or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to describe Twilio as sort of like the middleman for that process. But besides text message and voice calls, we also have, SendGrid for
Mm.
email, we have Segment for data collection. So there's,
Mhm.
a bunch of different products that we also encapsulate besides, just um, telecom services like video.
Okay. Oh, like video, right? Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess maybe I should sort of think about if I'm a full stack web developer, so I think a lot of people listening are full stack web developers, right? The way that I normally think about building an app that actually has a user interface is by building like a web application, and then I
Yes.
send you a URL, and you come visit my web app, and you fill out forms, and you click on links, and that's like how the software works. And what I'm hearing you
Yes.
say is like, well, wait a minute, like what if you wanted to build a user experience, but you wanted the user experience to be something that happened like over a text message,
Over
like
a
so like
text
I can
message. Yeah.
or yeah, or a phone call, like or video or whatever, right? So you're kind of giving developers, instead of just like this little box filled with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you're giving them these other interfaces that they can use to build experiences that like their end users can interact with.
Exactly. Because when we typically think about the telecom space, we're thinking person to person, like there's a person that's manually texting you. But when you
Right.
think about it on a larger scale, like Uber, Uber's not texting you that your ride is outside. All of this stuff is happening, in an automated process. So there's no person that needs to literally man, all the cellular devices and text a large group of people. So, Twilio sort of handles that complex procedure of being able to say, hey, send all this data out, but we don't need a person to do it. We want it to all be done autonomously.
So wait, you mean my Uber driver isn't actually texting me while they're driving? At the time when I see that come through.
Right. Thankfully they're not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
But actually, I think this is actually like a pretty good transition point to like what we wanted to dive in on. So I know we're gonna go ahead and dive into some code, and we're gonna talk about a really really cool new API called Conversational Relay. But to sort of set it up at first, like the Uber example is really interesting, right? So like a lot of, and I'm also speaking from experience. Like I worked at Twilio 7 or 8 years ago, and pre AI, right? So a lot of the text messages that you would get, they'd be kind of like static, right? Like there would be like these kind of like hard coded programmed text messages where it's like your driver, Sally will arrive in 5 minutes or something. But I couldn't respond. I couldn't be like, oh well,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm running late, right? I mean, like there's sort of like there was a machine on the other end, but it's kind of like a dumb machine, right? But now in a world of AI and a world of LLMs, like all of a sudden like you could be there could be a smarter sort of agent on the other end of that SMS line, right? Where
Yeah.
like it says like, hey, your driver's on its way, and you're like, oh shucks, like I'm still in the elevator. Can they please wait for 10 minutes? And then the agent is like, sure, like I mean, whatever, or like we'll pass that along, or like, well, in that case, we're gonna sort of cancel the ride with Sally, but we'll spin up a new request that will fulfill once you're closer to like where you need to be or something, right?
Yeah.
So it
That's a
sounds like this world of agents like would be something that would like fit in really well with like a communications API.
Yeah, and I want to bring it back just a little bit because there was something really important that you mentioned, like not having the ability to give it more of an unstructured response. So, when you call some offices, sometimes it'll say like press 1 for this, press 2 for this, press 3 for this, but
Yeah,
sometimes you're listening and you're saying, "Hey, none of these are the options that
yeah,
I actually need
yeah,
right now." And it's a little bit frustrating because there's only but so much you can do when you're programming to say like, "Hey, take apart this message, try to find the actionable data in here, and then, you know, uh, execute accordingly." Like, I'm sure you try to do that as developers, like, hey, let's try to make this intelligent. Let's
Hmm.
make this you know, a little bit more rich in data when you're dealing with messages or voice calls. But there's only but so much you can program because there's only, such a scope that you can build for. So, to your point, Carter, adding that AI element, that LLM machine learning component where it can sort of understand you and then transform it into data without you as a developer having to type
yeah.
out, unlimited conditions is a
Yeah,
huge time saver.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a real thing, right? I mean, back when me and some of my colleagues were effectively like trying to build SMS chatbots, like once again, this is just pre-open AI, it's pre-AI. Like your code is just like this, it's just littered with regular expressions and
Yeah.
conditionals and like just sort of, you're doing the best that you can, but ultimately it's actually like it ended up like feeling a lot like just like CLIs. Like you just like, oh, like my, this SMS bot like basically understands like 6 commands, and
Mm-hmm.
like and you could like, and if you had to, you could
Read it
sort of
right.
like you could text help, and then the bot would like tell you that the 7 things that it knows how to do or something. So yeah, I mean
Right.
this sort of seems like in a vacuum like unambiguously good, right? In terms of like, yeah, like we can build smarter things, and and once again, like it seems like it's good for 2 reasons. It seems like it's good for the developer because it's like I don't want to write 3,000 lines of code of like regular
Exactly.
expressions and
Yeah.
conditionals, but it also seems like it's better for the users, right? It's like, I'm on hold, or I'm texting, or who knows, whatever, I'm WhatsApping, and I just I know what I need help with, and I don't want the menus and like all
Exactly.
this like really crufty UI, right? So yeah, why don't we kind of transition into checking out Conversation Relay? Do you want to
Sure.
go ahead and take over the screen?
Let me try my best.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
Can we share screen?
There we go.
I can. And then for folks who are so this podcast is being live streamed right now, and thanks for all the folks that are they're tuning in right now. For those of you that are listening after the fact, like maybe you're out, you're doing some errands, or you're at the gym. I'll do my best to narrate some of the stuff that's on the screen. So this is a video podcast. You can certainly watch it on video on your favorite podcast player of choice. But if you are listening on audio, I'll insert some cues along the way. But yeah, I'll just turn it over to Kaelyn.
All right. All right. So let's dive into Conversation Relay. So this is a feature that's under our conversational AI umbrella here at Twilio. So we have conversational intelligence, which is able to like listen to conversation, take out actionable insights using AI, as well as, to summarize a whole conversation or look for, specific text that, might be important for future data collection, such as, if a user's like, hey, I want to update my appointment time, or Carter, to your example, like I'm running a little bit late for my Uber, being able to grab that information, say, hey, let's do something with this proactively that will make the user's life a lot easier, so they don't have to manually do any other changes. Like, this is sort of like a way of improving the customer experience. But Conversation Relay, from a developer perspective, is a way that you can sort of add AI intelligence to a conversation to make it sound more lifelike, so you don't have to have, let's say, a call center that's helping out your customers. You can have, a flow that sounds like you're working with a human agent to complete the necessary goal. So at its core, let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, okay. So at its core, Conversation Relay is built on top of Twilio Voice, and it really, minimizes the amount of work that you have to do in order to build that sort of AI bot. So you have Twilio Voice, and the first thing that it needs to do is, if you're working with an AI assistant or an AI bot, is take the word that the user is saying and convert it to text. So already built in, Conversation Relay has a speech to text component. So once, the user has their speech translated into text, you can then feed it into an LLM or any of your background use case, whatever you have set up on your WebSocket, to then generate a response from your LLM and send it back as text. And now the last thing that needs to be done is that you need to convert that text into a voice that sounds really lifelike. So Conversation Relay has that text-to-speech component also built in. So once it receives that text back, it makes it sound like a real person and sends it back through the voice channel, sort of completing that circuit of a conversation without a real human having to be on the other line, and without a developer having to code out that experience yourself. So like coding out, like, oh, you go, Carter.
No, that makes sense. So I'm gonna interject. So for folks that haven't used Twilio before, Twilio is an API and a platform that developers can sign up for free to get started, right? And when you talk about Twilio Voice, that can when you say PSTN, that for folks that aren't into the telecom lingo, that just means that with Twilio, like, you can actually purchase real phone numbers, right? And like in all different countries around the world.
Yes, and we're gonna do that live later.
Fantastic. Awesome. Cool. And then the client part of it, that's also on this screen, is that, like, if you are a web developer and you want to build a web app and you want it to have these cool voice capabilities, but you want the, like we are here, like right now we're using a tool called SQL.io, and we're having this conversation effectively over the microphone and the cameras that are embedded in our computers. Like, Twilio client offers that same kind of capability, right?
Yeah, you can use the SDK if you want to have that phone sort of like in your web space. Yes.
And one question I actually had as well, you were talking about the speech to text. Little anecdote is, one of the first I keep doing that lately, generative AI apps I built was this app Babelfish that converted any language to another language. But as a coder, I had to learn how to transcribe the audio and do all that kind of stuff. But what I think I heard you say was, you don't need to do that here. That Twilio provides, like, part of the tools that you just speak, and it will handle the transcription and all of that part for you. Do I have that right?
Exactly. So you don't have to code out that section yourself, and you don't have to get, the different API keys for, 11 Labs or DeepGram in order to do this, because those providers are already, available on the platform. You can just sort of go down the list and choose what you would like to pick and choose for your speech to text and text to speech providers, and finito.
Okay, awesome. Well, it sounds like I interrupted the transition into, like, the fun demo part. So we should proceed.
No. I appreciate the insight you give, Carter. I mean, you've been at Twilio. You are a former, once a Twilion, always a Twilion.
Always a Twilion.
Oh, is that the name? Is that the name, Twilion?
Yeah.
I've never heard that. That's great.
It's great. Well, it's funny because we so actually, like, to David, this is a fun game to play. So, like, I know I'm aware of Twilion. David, what were we just like Staxers at DataStax?
Yeah, Staxers.
Was it, were you data stackers or just staxers?
Both. I've heard both.
Well,
Yeah, I've
okay,
used
so
both.
it sounds like okay, but let's just call it Staxers, right?
Yeah.
So like so David and I work at a
I
company
love
called
that.
DataStax, but DataStax is being acquired by a much bigger company called IBM. So I guess the term was Staxers. We'll just go with Staxers for now. Now we're moving to IBM. I don't, is it just like
IBMer.
IBMer? Is
It's
that what it
IBMer.
is?
Are you guys
Yeah.
bees?
Oh,
Yeah, IBMer. Yeah,
I
matter of
mean, I
fact,
think
it's all over.
IBMer.
bees would be way cooler. But it seems like we're not bees. It seems like we're IBMers. But it is funny. Like when you go talk to like, oh, you know what I just learned the other day? Kaelyn, let's see if you can guess
What?
this. Can you guess what people who work at Anthropic call themselves?
Anthropologists? I don't know.
No,
It doesn't make
no,
sense, but
no, no. What the thing that's true,
anthros?
the thing that's true doesn't make sense either. They call themselves ants. I mean, I'm not kidding.
How do you spell it? I mean, is it
Like
the
like the
ANTS?
bug. Oh, just like the bug. Yeah, like ants. We're ants.
Okay, now I need to look up what the Anthropic logo looks like. There has
Wait,
to
hold
be
on.
some correlation.
No, there really isn't. I think it's just, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's
Much
like
easier to
short and
say than
it's short and
Anthropic
easy to say.
something.
And like, I don't know, you can come up with like ideas, like ants are like, they work together, they're really strong. They can lift 100 times their body weight. And they work together to accomplish amazing things. And then you can come up with this, like, I don't work there, right? But like, there's probably like a mythology, like for like why they have chosen like the ant as like this way to self-describe. But
They
it's
might have
always
just
fun.
chosen the first three letters of their
Sure.
company too.
No. Oh, agreed. Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was
There's
definitely
definitely a
related
symbol
to the
one.
name. Yeah, sorry. By the way, welcome to like one of many digressions that we're going to have as we talk
That's great.
move along. But okay, all right. So we've sidetracked. Let's move over to the demo and get into some code.
All right, let's get into it. So, also thank you, Carter, for being the one to stay on track because I also get off track all the time. So,
Good.
the first thing that I want to talk about and set up with everyone is the WebSocket portion of
Mm,
Conversation Relay. So, you have the speech to text, text to speech, you have the component where you're sending all that information to and from Twilio, but you also need the meat and the logic of this. So let's cover that first. So the way I like to think about WebSockets is having carrier pigeons. So, you're sending out carrier pigeons. You may send out 3 carrier pigeons. You may get 1 carrier pigeon back. But the whole idea is that you're constantly a hub for sending and receiving transmitted data.
mhm.
So for a WebSocket server, that transmitted data is going to be data that is coming in from the user. So let's say an incoming phone call, and interruption, which I forgot to mention. Conversation Relay also handles interruptions. So
Cool.
if it's a long response and you're like, hey, I already know what you're going to say. I don't need to listen to this long spiel. Let me just interrupt you and get to my point. So it can understand all of those different types of inputs. So just to go over, because I lost my track. So incoming calls, DTMF. So if you're pressing any buttons, interruptions, and if the user is saying something, those are all things that your WebSocket is taking in. And then your WebSocket is sort of pushing out, excuse me, the data that it gets back from your LLM or any other function capabilities, tools that you've built in with your system. So yeah, let's get started. The
By the
first
way,
thing
I
that,
love your
oh,
I love your carrier pigeon analogy, and I'm stealing that. That's such a great analogy
don't
for
steal my
WebSocket.
carrier pigeon. No,
Totally
I'm kidding.
stealing it.
Take
Anyway,
it.
Hmm.
But just to go over what I have on my page first, so this is a Node.js app. I have, my Express WebSocket server being imported, my middleware for Express.
Mhm.
I'm running on port 3000. At the top, I have some functions that I'll jump into a little bit later, like hide sensitive data. That's just to protect my own personal phone number. The Langflow API call, which we'll do a little bit later once we have, our conversation relay set up and running.
Mhm.
And next I have my WebSocket server. So we have 2 things that we need to set up first for our WebSocket server, and that's what happens when a message comes in, and wham bam, we have our messages, and we can see, you know, the incoming message that we are getting from Conversation Relay. So the first thing that I want to do before I add any meat to this WebSocket server is I want to make it live. So I'm going to start running my WebSocket server. So node server JS. Cool. We see that it's running on port 3001, but this is running locally on port 3001. The other thing that I want to do is set up my ngrok server, which I am actually already running, but this is just so I can have my local server exposed on the internet. Why? Because I need to connect it to my Twilio API so I can start sending and receiving information.
Localhost wouldn't be available, right? So you need some
Yeah.
way to connect those things together.
Quick, I guess quick plug
Exactly.
for our friends at ngrok. Yeah, if you're running a local,
Yes.
I mean, if you're, I mean, there are other tools you can use, but I love ngrok.
Same.
It's a wonderful tool. It's free to use. There are like, there's like a paid version with some upgraded features. But for the folks that are listening, it's a fantastic tool for taking local host web servers and giving them like publicly addressable domains and URLs on the internet, so that you can wire up things like webhooks and Kaelyn's WebSocket events and all those things. Yeah.
And Carter, since you're a former Twilion, you know why ngrok was created.
Of course. Yeah, sure. I mean,
No, I don't. I want to hear this.
No, man, ngrok was created by an engineer from Twilio. It was created by a wonderful guy named Alan.
For Alan.
So Alan,
awesome.
sure, but
for this exact reason.
For this, yeah, exactly. So basically Twilio, like the whole Twilio use case. Well, this is a useful, like, very short digression. There were other competitors to Twilio. There are and were other competitors to Twilio that had different, like, programming models. One of the other popular models was that you would write scripts and you would upload your scripts to, like, this other company's cloud, and then they would just run your scripts for you. But Jeff, and John and the founders of Twilio, there were, like, some real engineering downsides to this model, where first of all, you had to write your scripts in a single programming language. Right. And they wanted to create a way for people to build these kinds of experiences using any kind of programming language. Could have been Python, could be PHP, could be Java, could be anything. So they ended up building this webhook architecture where there was the Twilio cloud that understood how to send text messages and make phone calls. And then there was your app written in any programming language that you wanted. And then the communication between your app and the Twilio cloud was over HTTP. And it was either API calls or it was webhooks. But that was really novel at the time. Not a lot of people did this, and it unlocked millions of developers around the world because they didn't have to learn a new programming language. But because this webhook thing was kind of novel, there were, like, these problems where people would build web servers on their laptops and be like, how do I connect this to Twilio?
How do I test this thing? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then an enterprising guy named Alan Shreve is like, well, I can solve that problem, and he created this thing called ngrok, and now it's like, he's the founder of a company called ngrok, and it's
thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
Like,
seriously,
extremely useful tool. Especially when you're, like, trying to develop and stuff. Yeah.
For sure. So, like, it's great for Twilio. It's great for lots of non-Twilio use cases. So if you haven't heard of ngrok, now you have. Alan, you owe me a beer. And we'll okay, that's digression number 2. We're gonna keep going with Kaelyn.
No, thank you, Carter. I actually didn't know the full scope of that story, so thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Now I know. All right, so just to go over this, I like, using visual representations of what we're doing. So we have our WebSocket server somewhat set up. It's running, it's able to receive information. It's not really sending any information just yet. But the next thing that I want to set up is the Conversation Relay API, so we can start sending it some data from our phone calls. So I'm going to head over to the Twilio console. I have the docs locked and loaded, so we can sort of just, I don't want to say copy pasta, but so we can get started creating our code. So the first thing that I want to do is create a TWIML bin because it's going to allow me to create that XML response that I'm taking in from my call and being able to send it to my WebSocket server. So I'm going to go ahead, create a new TWIML bin. I'm going to call it data stack, or the company formerly known as Data Stacks.
We need a symbol now, right? Like, yeah, just put a
Stream.
So David,
And
I don't know. You keep going, Kaelyn, but like while
yeah.
you're doing that, David, I don't know if you know this, but I was the product manager behind Twimlbin.
Oh, really?
You
I
were.
did not know that.
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting all the history today. This is great.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, I was the PM, and there was a really awesome engineer, dear friend of mine, Martin Amps, and another engineer, Kusha Telebian. Yeah, we built
That's
we
great.
shipped Twimlbins.
That's awesome. Ah.
Thank you for your service.
But Kaelyn, you were probably going to explain like what this this sort of like XML-ish stuff is that you're pasting in.
Yeah, so I mean, this is sort of like a condensed version of the code that we would write out. I think this is a good example. Like if you wanted to say like, hey, connect conversation relay, create a new voice response. If you want to compact all of that into some small XML, responses, you can do so. I think it's a little bit easier when it comes to spinning up quick examples. So like you want to say, hey, I want to create a new voice response. And I would like to connect this to my conversation relay API. So in here, you need to specify, okay, your conversation relay API. Well, what WebSocket server is it going to talk to? So I can go ahead and paste in that WebSocket server, that ngrok server that I have spun up. I'm just going to go ahead and copy it, replace that HTTP with the WSS. Doop, 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 doop. All right, and then I just need to add my endpoint, which I remember I named it connection, but just in case, because I forget a lot. Okay, yep, I named it connection. It looks like it's spelled the same.
Yep.
All right, and that's kind of all you need to get started. I mean, in order to connect your Twiml or connect, the Twilio cloud to your WebSocket server with Conversation Relay. There are some other cool properties that you can include that, I'm not going to go over all of the attributes, but things such as, the welcome greeting, the language that you are expecting the user to be speaking in, if you want any interruptions to be accepted, the voice, the text-to-speech provider, speech-to-text, etc. All of that can be included in this little
And I'm assuming there's defaults for all of these, right? So if you didn't set that, there are base defaults, but then you can change them if you wish.
If you go back to the docs, like there's a column where it just tells you what the defaults are.
Got you. And then just to be sure, while you're typing that stuff out, Kaelyn, and for those watching, that WebSocket URL, the URL you put in here, that is, from what I saw, that is the ngrok location on your local, right? That's what you when you created ngrok and it created a link for you. That's what we're seeing in there. /connection then links it up to the code.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is exactly correct. All right, welcome greeting, camel case, this looks good. So now that I see that this is valid voice TWIML, I'm going to go ahead and create it and assign this to a phone number. So I can head over in the console. Do I have this open already? Oh, thank you. Thank you, previous self. I'm going to go ahead and go to one of these phone numbers that I'm not really using. And I'm going to go and configure the voice aspect of this. So I can scroll down to voice configuration and I can say, hey, I want to, whenever a call comes in, I can choose, different options. I can choose a webhook, I can choose a function. But instead, I'm going to choose Twimlbins because I just created a Twimlbins with y'all live. And I'm going to go ahead and select that DataStax Twilio stream Twimlbin that I just created and scroll all the way down to the bottom and save that configuration.
Nice.
All right, page refresh. Now you know it works. So I'm going to go back to my node server, call this number, and just see what we have so far. I love just like, plugging and chugging, see what we have working so far.
Let's see what happens.
And then build from there. Oh no, you see my other stuff. Pretend like it doesn't exist.
Welcome to our hotline.
Hi, how are you?
That's cool. So
Oh, I didn't
transcribed it.
enable DTMF. But yeah, so
Yeah, we
let's
saw
see
it.
the data
Okay.
that we have so far from our node server.
Yeah.
So we see that we have um, sorry, I should also explain that I'm logging the
Right.
string of incoming message.
Yeah.
That's not something that you would see, but you see that, you get different objects depending on the step of the process that you are on in this call. So the first thing that we see is that we have a type setup that shows, the session ID, the call SID, who is calling, and the number that is being called. So that's the Twilio number that I just registered with the TWIML bin.
Right.
And you can see some other information like, it's an inbound call, the call type,
Mm.
etc. And then the next thing that you see coming into my WebSocket server is an object of type prompt. So again, this is going to be the data that's coming in, and I'm parsing it. So that message is saying, hey, this is a prompt. The user said something, and this is what they said. They
Yep.
said, hi, how are you?
Mhm.
So, you can talk to this for days and say, you can have a whole conversation, but you won't get a response back. So that's the
Mm.
part that we need to build now.
Okay.
Okay.
So for this, we are going to be using Langflow. Who would have guessed? And so so I actually thought that we might be a little bit behind on time. So I actually already created the flow for us, if that's okay with y'all. So I can
Yeah.
just
Oh no,
sort
totally.
of
For sure.
jump through and show what we have working so far. All right,
Mhm.
this is a little bit more, I don't want to say lackluster, but you have an input, you have a chat input, you have a chat output, and in between we have the OpenAI LLM,
Yeah.
excuse me,
This is, I
sort of
mean,
performing a task.
yeah, the kinder way to describe this is like hello world, right?
Yeah.
This is like, hey,
This is
like
Hello
Let's
World.
keep it
this
simple
is
so people
hello.
can
Let's
follow,
keep it
right? Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Of course, like people that are like our hardcore like Langfo community, they can imagine what this would look like with 25 components
Absolutely.
scattered around wired in
Yeah,
different ways. So sure.
because I was playing with Langflow and I'm like, oh my gosh, the opportunities are endless. But again, we are focusing on Hello World for today.
Yeah.
So I have my chat input, that receiving input, and I'm telling
Mhm.
OpenAI
Mm.
to dun 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 dun. Can I zoom in a little bit
Yeah.
more?
There you go.
Yes. All right, yeah. Based on the received input, decide if the conspiracy theory is real or not. So we are building a conspiracy bot.
That's
Oh my
great.
God.
So
Okay.
if the fact is correct, respond that no, it actually is true. If it's well known, egg them on. Dig a little bit deeper, make them feel that they're correct in their assumption. And if it's not a known conspiracy theory, respond that the belief is false and keep it in a friendly manner. And then some other things that I'd like to include, just because sometimes it could be a little bit buggy when there's punctuation and new line characters. I'm specifically telling it, hey, do not include any new line characters, don't include any
Mm.
punctuation,
Right.
because we just want you to read it back
This
to the
is a
user.
voice, right? You want it to sound like a natural person talking, not a robot just like reading text back.
Right,
Yeah.
new line character, because it will say
Oh,
it'll
it
say
will say it. Oh, that's
it will
great.
say
Yeah.
/n, and it's like,
Yeah.
no,
That's
don't
awesome.
include that. And
Yeah.
sometimes the wait with punctuation, it'll be like, yes, and then, and it's like, no, let's not
Yeah.
include any
Got you.
pauses.
That's funny.
All right,
That's
so
awesome.
we have our OpenAI LLM already set up, and we're saying, hey, once you get that response, just send it back. So let's go back to that function that I so conveniently hidden. It was a little long. So, I have my payload. Oh,
Mhm.
actually, let me go a little bit further because I haven't incorporated this part yet. But what it's going to do, it's going to take a user input. We're going to set that as the input value for the payload. And we're saying, hey, send a post request
Mhm.
to my locally running Langflow flow,
Right.
so
Yeah.
to
Right.
speak.
Okay.
And then I have some console logs while I was building this out just to see like, hey, what information do we want to grab? I was playing with
Mhm.
streaming a little bit because streaming,
Yeah.
Okay, sidebar. Whenever you are working with, tokens, and this like a voice live stream, you want to send that data back as quickly as possible. So
Yeah.
instead of waiting for like, a long paragraph to sort of generate, you can say, no, generate as you go. So
Yeah.
you're getting a response instead of just waiting and having, and so it feels a little bit more human-like. So
Yeah.
I have a few logs that I forgot to delete to when I was playing around with that. But what it's going to do is it's going to return the response that we got back from that bot. So let's incorporate this function now. I'm going to go ahead and copy so I don't misspell it. And we are going to add some conditional statements. So as I showed before, there's two different types of inputs that we can get, of type setup and of type prompt. Right now, I kind of care about prompt. So I'm going to say if message type is equal to setup, maybe we want to, there's something that I really want to do today. So maybe, store the user data, example phone number, wham, cool. But right now I want to add some logic and say, hey, no, if the message type is a prompt, no, prompt, not message, then we want to connect it to Langflow. So I'm going to say, hey, let's have the response be equal to that Langflow. Sorry, I'm just now using, oh man, the words escaped me. This autocomplete with.
Oh yeah. Get a Copilot.
Copilot, yeah. I'm still getting a little bit used to Copilot. But yeah, if the message is of type prompt, we want to pass in the message voice prompt property.
Okay. Cool.
Makes sense.
And let me see, is this asynchronous? Perfect. It is asynchronous, so I want to wait for that response.
Yep.
And then I want to send the response back to the client, aka Twilio. So for that, all right, maybe I'm going to turn that setting off. It's a bit of a pain. So I'm going to tell my WebSocket to send back the data. I need to first stringify it. Oh, this one is correct. All right. So of type text. And I want to send back that actual response to the user. So
cool. Okay.
Let's cross our fingers and
let's you're doing it. Like let's just see what happens.
We're doing it. Actually, you know what? Let's also, am I console logging the response that I get back? Let's console log it just for visual reasons. Perfect. All right. Langflow response. Let me restart that server again. All righty. So, what's a good conspiracy theory we want to test?
I'm trying to think of one that isn't like politically flammable. How about just like the Earth being flat?
All right, let's try that.
Welcome to
Unfortunately,
the Earth is flat. All right. I love live coding. So we do see that we get the response from Langflow, but we just need.
It came fast. I think we're just we're probably just that the WebSocket send part is letting us down.
The WebSocket send part a little bit. Yeah, let's troubleshoot. So we can see, absolutely, the Earth is flat. That's why caps keep pushing things off the edge to test the gravity. The secret flat Earth society. That's amazing.
I have to hear that. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, let's figure it out together.
Let's figure it out. Okay. So we see
the WebSocket send. Like you definitely want to stringify it.
Yes, definitely want to stringify it.
Yeah. Okay. And then type text is the second property supposed to be a response?
The response from.
No, I meant
here,
so you got type as text, and then underneath you've got response. Yes. Is the
no?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
There we go.
I trusted them too much. Too
It's like
much.
it's good. It kind of gets you 80% of the
I
way
like
there, but then
Copilot.
you
Yeah.
gotta do the rest.
You gotta double check.
Yeah.
Token.
Welcome to our hotline.
Stevie Wonder isn't blind. Did I restart the server?
No,
I didn't restart the server. Okay, now we
we
Okay.
saw the response there. Yep.
Yeah, we saw
we
that.
have the response, but
We're getting for folks that are listening, we're getting some hilarious responses. We promise we're gonna get this working.
Welcome to our hotline.
platypuses aren't real.
Oh, absolutely. The platypus is just a top secret government prototype for animal mashups. And everyone you see is actually a remote controlled robot designed to confuse biologists.
Heck
That's
yeah.
awesome.
That is
Awesome.
amazing. That is so great.
So I feel like we should give like a quick high level recap though of what just happened there, because from everything you explained earlier, like there's a bunch, right? From the fact that
There
you
is
set
a
up a
bunch.
phone call, right? You've got a phone number that you can call that automatically transcribes your text or your speech into text that then responds with a voice, right? The fact that all of that
Yeah.
happened and it's essentially just API calls. And then that gets pushed over to Langflow, which does something fun with an agent that gives you the response based on the conspiracy theory that then responds back and then takes that text and goes back to voice and does automatic transcription and everything. Like as a developer, I'm looking at this from what I just saw in your code, right? And the
Yeah.
code is pretty darn straightforward. And there's a lot there that I don't need to worry about.
10 minutes or less. It's pretty quick to get started. I mean, most of the bulk is going to come in setting up your WebSocket server. So if you
Yeah.
have additional functionality that you may want to include, like messaging, but sorry, that wasn't your question. I got derailed. To go over what happened exactly, we have our WebSocket server that is sending out information, grabbing information from our LLM, from our flow, and then sending that data back to Twilio. So it can, like you said, David, transcribe it from speech to text and then text to speech.
That's cool.
And
Yeah. This is super cool.
have it
Yeah.
running.
There's and
So
Kaelyn, they're actually Langflow does actually support streaming responses. So one of the things that
yes.
that I'm gonna do, after this stream is over is like I'm gonna try and build like a version of what you just showed me, but build it with streaming support, just to see like how fast we can get those responses going back.
Yes. If I was a better Python developer, I would attempt it.
Oh no, it's
Because I
all
was
good.
looking at all the options in the code, and I was like, wow, there's really a lot that you can manipulate here.
Yeah. Oh no,
So
it's even
yeah.
it's even better than that. Our colleague, I don't know if you ever worked with Phil Nash, but he also used to work at Twilio.
Yeah.
And he's at DataStax now. And he actually built a Node.js client for Langflow. So you're yeah, it's like, and sorry,
No
like that
kidding.
yeah, we can improve our docs to make that more obvious, for developers that are picking up Langflow for the first time. But yeah, you can npm install a Langflow client for Node.js. And it vastly simplifies the code, and it provides like some pretty great semantics around streaming events. So yeah. Anyway, I'm
Oh
definitely
man.
I'm gonna fiddle with. Yeah, no worries though. But
I wish I
look,
knew
this is
about this
good.
earlier. That's exciting. No, I want
It,
to play with that too because
yeah, you should.
the
Yeah,
streaming really makes a difference when it
yeah,
sounds because that little pause. It's like,
Yep.
is anybody there? You're a little bit nervous. I was a little bit nervous doing this demo live, but and then when you're dealing with a larger scale, you want that information to
yeah.
just flow
Yeah, just
faster.
npm install at datastax/Langflow client, and you can get some better semantics for your Express app. But I think this is actually
Thank you,
like it's
Phil.
funny. I was talking to David about this earlier. Like when you're just trying to learn new things, sometimes you just get overloaded with like concepts because like David just said, like in order to truly understand how this works end to end, like you have to understand WebSockets and HTTP and like the Twilio API and PSTN, and like it's kind of too much. Like in one sitting. So I actually, I think I kind of appreciate that we got like a single block of text from Langflow, and
Yep.
then Twilio flawlessly turned it into a real voice experience on the phone. And then sure, like as a developer, like you want to kind of go farther. You want to go from the 101 to the 201 to the 301 or whatever. So yeah, sure, like you can add streaming responses, you can build more complex flows, like you can do all these things, but kind of getting to that hello world is a nice first stop.
Yeah, I yeah, it's really when it's funny when me and David were talking about things that we want to cover today, at first the scope was so big because we're like, let's add messaging, let's add RCS to this. Like the world is our oyster when it comes to just all the capabilities that you can do with this because AI is just so powerful and it makes the development cycle a lot faster when you're trying to build things like this, like sending text messages. Like I for Signal, our conference, I built an AI bot where you can choose the personality, you can choose the topic of conversation,
Yeah.
and then you can call it and have like a full conversation with it. You could design the tone, and then afterwards when you hung up it would send you a text message that would say,
Yeah.
dear creator, feel free to call me back anytime. But it just speaks to the level of products and other implementation that you can do to make this a more robust, fully scalable app.
Yeah. Hey, Kaelyn, is that the t-shirt you're wearing?
Yeah,
Was that
our
this
San
past
Francisco. Yeah, that
yeah,
was in May. Wow, time's
yeah,
flying.
yeah. But that was the first. So once again, for folks that don't know, Twilio puts on a really great annual conference for developers called Signal. And I think it was not in person for a while, for obvious reasons. But I think that this past one in May was the first in-person one in a while, right?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
the
okay.
first, and we tried to come back really strong. Well, not try, we did. Like it was a
Yeah,
2-day event. My team was in charge of building the arcade system there. So we had like
nice.
all these custom arcades built with Twilio and Twilio products to, sort of show people like the gamified. I don't know. I think gamifying makes things easier
Yeah,
to digest and,
Yeah.
you know, interact with the tools that we have. Try it
yeah.
out. Like really
Yeah.
just get your hands on it.
I love that you built a chatbot for the conference, right? I mean, I know I actually I run a conference, and I know what it's like when people are kind of constantly coming to the folks that with the organizer badges, like asking pretty basic questions, like what's the Wi-Fi or what time is lunch, and
Mhm.
the idea
That's
of
a real
like, oh,
question.
that's a real question. Sure. And of course you can kind of like, it's funny as an organizer, you get frustrated because you're like, have you have you even visited the website? Like it's all but
Like it's
look,
on the phone.
well, that's the thing. I mean, people are just sort of like, I don't know, people, it's fine. Like you have to meet users where they are,
Yeah.
right? Like, as a developer and as someone who builds software, like you can't, it's just like swimming upstream, wishing that people would have different default behaviors. And yeah, it's like so much smarter. Like just like have a smart chatbot that you can program with all the context, like all the information about the event, and just like make the bot smart, and then like let point people to the bot. And it's better for
Exactly.
everybody, right?
Yeah.
Oh, very.
So yeah, that's super cool. I'm gonna steal that idea for my conference later this fall. So
I
to
think it's a
build
great idea. Yeah, and I actually
Absolutely.
looking at what Kaylyn's done here, by the way, like I almost want to rewrite my Babelfish app, the language translation one, because
sure.
for this
Go
capability,
for it.
it's significantly less code than what I had to do. Because when I was doing it, I was handling the transcription, I was handling all the audio bits, and it seems like
That's a
you
lot.
don't need to do that. Like that's just complete overkill, and you don't need that stuff, and that could be very easily done here. And I'm
Well,
actually really curious, honestly.
but another thing, look for like honestly, this is a good learning though, right? David built his app before Conversational
Yeah,
Relay existed.
yeah.
So like I think as developers who are building in the AI space, yeah, like get used to it. Like get used to the idea that like you're gonna rewrite your app,
Ain't that
right?
the
Well,
truth? Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
like, it's not all. I mean, normally that's like really stressful and like it's like people would be upset about this, but look, you know, AI makes it a lot. I mean, David's not going to manually rewrite the app, right? You know, probably just like, you know, go tell Claude, you know, like, hey, like rewrite this using Twilio Conversation Relay, right? So I think like, I think like these capabilities are like changing so quickly, and like new things are coming along so quickly that as builders, like you know, you have to pay attention and you have to sort of be plugged in, because your ability to build things like just keeps getting better and better and better and easier and easier and easier, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this is amazing. David, are there any sort of like things that folks should check out regarding, you know, Twilio or Conversation Relay or
Yes. I know that was for David, but yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One thing that I shared with David is I just want to talk about it because I know that David's gonna share it a little bit later. But blog posts, you know, the Twilio website is full of different blog posts and ways to get started with Twilio. Like if you're new to Twilio, you know, definitely check out some of these to-dos so you can learn how to get started. Oh, where is it?
Yeah, and just, you know, for those of you who are watching, I just popped a QR code up on the top right hand side there. So that will
Here
bring
it
you
is.
to the docs that Kaelyn is referring to right now.
Yeah, and we'll
Ah.
also make sure that all of these links are included in the show notes when this goes up, you know, on YouTube or on your favorite podcast
That's right.
listener of choice.
Yes. So, sorry. Okay. Here are the docs. So in the docs, you know, you can see the onboarding process, the best practice, which is super important. I mean, whenever you're building a voice AI bot, like latency is the biggest thing that you need to conquer. You know, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I can lower latency, whether that be with choosing a specific text-to-speech provider or, you know, checking out the latency of different vice versa. Checking out the latency of like different text to speech providers, because sometimes, you know, a voice can be, you know, it could be a really big file and it could really bog down the conversation speech time because it's so complex. So like, you know, there's a bunch of gems in this best practice, you know, picking voices, how to get started sending WebSocket servers, all of that is included in the doc. So if you are a new developer and this seems a little bit daunting, you know, check it out. It's not too cumbersome to get started. You know, and that's definitely a call to action that I want to tell everybody on here. Like, try it out. You know, don't hesitate to get your hands dirty and just try, you know, working with this technology. Like it seems a lot at first, but
Kaelyn, is there any place
digestible.
if developers, I don't know, if they had any questions or they wanted to connect, is there, I don't know, is there like a place that they should go? Is there a community? And any places that you would suggest that they go if they have any questions?
That's a really great question. Like, what is, I mean, I think it depends more so on the question that you have, because in the console, you
Yeah.
can ask questions if you're having
Oh,
any
there you go.
technical, if you have any technical help that you need. And then, but a lot of the things you can find on our Twilio blog, like if you're looking for building examples, if you're looking for, you know, just larger ideas when it comes to the architecture and capabilities of Twilio. I mean, the blog is a really helpful place. Like if you type in Twilio blog and then your question, you'll probably find an article describing some relative solution for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to kind of wrap it. Kaelyn, thank you so much for joining us. This was a really fun conversation.
Yeah.
I was definitely not disappointed. Like we got to dive into like a lot of code. You know, got to, you know, show like just really like simple but like powerful example of like what you can do with Conversation Relay. We you know, kind of sprinkled on a little Langflow at the end. This is super cool. Like I'm like what's fun about these live streams and these podcasts is that like I get really excited. I kind of I want to sort of like I immediately want to start building things. I love the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know what to, I don't even at first I was confused. I thought you were going to build a conspiracy theory like detector. Like my mother could call a phone number and like tell it something that she read on Facebook, and it would tell her
Oh
if it
my
was true or
gosh.
I
false.
like that
But you did
idea.
the opposite. You built
That's
like
too productive.
yeah, you built a conspiracy theory like amplifier, which is just absolutely hilarious. But once again, like, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. This is
Thank you
really
for
awesome.
having me. And on your second episode, like I'm honored.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And I look forward to collaborating in the future with y'all.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like we're, David and I and the other folks on the Langflow DevRel team. I mean, we just have the best jobs, right? Because, we're all just builders in this AI
Mhm.
space. We get to meet people like you and like other people that are kind of, it's like there's sort of like this like hub and spoke model where like, you've got these LLMs, which are really the beating heart of a lot of what people are building. But
Right.
then you just have all these platforms and APIs and tools that sort of take this and like enable it or enhance it or like do it. And really like I think someone referred to this as like a kind of like a Cambrian like explosion of just like
Mm,
new kinds of apps and
Mm.
like
yeah,
new
that's a neat
use
way to
case.
put it.
Well, don't you think? I mean, like,
Yeah.
I know we're a little over time, but this is our show, so we can go as long as we want. But it just seems like pre-AI, like, people had kind of sort of run out of ideas. In terms like, you had like if you were a developer, the first thing you would learn how to do is build a to-do list.
Mm.
If you're like just trying to
Ain't that
learn
the truth? Wow.
Ruby on Rails or like, no Express or something like, well, and every app
Ah,
looked the same, right? They
yes.
were all just sort of like check boxes and like whatever, like, like left nav and top navs, like all
Mhm.
software, like, and like all mobile apps, like they all kind of look the same and they all kind of work the same, um, which is fine. I mean, nothing wrong with that. But like now, post AI, people are just completely reimagining like everything, right?
Yeah.
I fully expect that
It's
the apps on my
exciting.
phone, yeah, like in 5 years, like I'm gonna have completely different apps on my phone
Yeah.
because people will have just reimagined like what a social network is or what, I don't know what Yelp is or like what any of these things are. I know my kids, I mean, my kids, like, or any young people these days, like they're growing up in this era, right?
Yeah.
And they don't even know or care what Facebook is, right? Like they're just sort of growing
It's
up with
second
like
nature that both
completely,
my girls talk to Alexa all the time, and that just you expect that,
Really?
right? Yeah, because
yeah,
she's in the house, she
That's
powers
so
all sorts of stuff,
interesting.
so they
yeah,
don't know any different. Yeah.
yeah. So if you're a builder, this is like it's an exciting time,
Yeah.
right? Like you like your creativity is totally unleashed. You've got every day or every week there's like a new tool or capability that's coming out. Like MCP is sort of on fire right now, and
Yep.
people are trying to figure out what to do with that. But there'll be more things on top of that. So it's like I don't know. It's a little bit of work to kind of keep up on it, but it feels like it's worth it because I've never been more excited about what I can build.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
Yes.
Kaelyn, thanks for sharing this with us. Thanks for coming on the show, and we will absolutely connect with you again soon and collaborate on some fun stuff.
Thank you. This was a blast, and thank you for having me.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to sign off. So
All
see you
right.
See
all on
everybody.
the next episode of The Flow. Take care.
Take
Bye.
care.